You are watching the New American Media. Live from Los Angeles, California, on the left coast of the United States. Planet Earth, the solar system, Milky Way galaxy. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Brian Engelman. I am your host. This is Agree to Disagree. This is a place where you're allowed to talk about everything you're not supposed to discuss inside of a bar. Religion, spirituality, politics, finance, etc. That's the stuff that gets us going, and that's why we do this every week on thenewamericanmedia.com. Thank you very much for sticking around. Do us a favor, if you're not following us on Twitter, please go to American_media_. That's at American_media_, and follow what we're up to. Go to our Facebook page, The New American Media, and like our page. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia, subscribe and leave some comments underneath this show and some of the other shows. We have a special guest today. We'd like to welcome Bruce Engelman to the program. Bruce is my blood uncle. I have known this man for a long time, as long as I've known anyone, really. And Bruce is going to bring an interesting take today. We're going to get a historical perspective of the Republicans and the Democrats. We're going to talk about the political process in 2012. We're going to talk about, I don't know, spirituality and religion and end times and all of those fun things, especially on the heels of the DNC removing God references and that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel that they will support. Took it out, then put it back in, except the DNC floor did not vote to put it back in. Antonio Villaraigosa, my fantastic mayor from Los Angeles, we'll talk about what he had to do with it, because it was pretty embarrassing and it's pretty unfortunate, but you can see the photos where on the teleprompter it's telling him to approve something that the people were not voting for. So on the heels of the RNC shutting Ron Paul out of the conversation and changing the rules in the middle of their game, we see the Democrats doing it too. So welcome to the program, Bruce Engelman. Bruce, my uncle. Hello, sir. How are you doing today?
Hey, pretty good, Brian. Good to be on your program today. Honored to be here.
Well, it's good to have you back. We've had you on the program to talk about the Kennedy assassination before. You have written a book on this. You are an author. You have studied this for a very long time. You're also a radio host of your own and a lifelong Cleveland sports fan. So I guess if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself, touching on some of those points and kind of some of where you're coming from, we can get that out there so people kind of have a basic understanding of where you're coming from, and then we'll get into some of these issues.
You bet, Brian. I'd be glad to. Of course, most of your listeners know by now that I am a pastor. I'm a minister. I pastor the Baptist Temple Church in Fort Worth, Texas. We've been in Fort Worth since 1953. We were an outreach of the famous First Baptist Church of Fort Worth, which was the first mega church in the world, in the United States, under Dr. J. Frank Norris. As you say, I've been regarded as one of the top researchers on the JFK assassination for the last 30 years, and also am a Cleveland sports nut as yourself, and of course we've suffered with the losing. But I've always been a Cowboy fan, and they did me proud the other day. So the Cowboys kind of balance it out, and my boys root for your Los Angeles Lakers. So we have some winners that we root for occasionally. And then of course I've been involved in politics since I've been 10 years of age, starting in Cleveland, Ohio, and then moving to Pittsburgh. So I've been around the block. I've been a Democrat. I've been a Republican. I've been an independent, you name it. And, of course, you and I both voted for Ron Paul in our primaries.
You know what? That is absolutely true. And it's interesting because when you think of uber conservative, when you think of kind of a basic understanding of where those issues are, you tend to align very closely with the conservative platform, if not the Republican platform. I take a little bit more of a libertarian slant, but you and I had talked during the primary process about who to vote for and who you'd like to represent the party, and you called me up to say, you made your decision, you're voting Ron Paul, and I said, why? That sounds more like someone someone living in Los Angeles would vote for. Why are you supporting him? And you said, I always vote for the most conservative candidate, which means you're going to be supporting Mitt Romney in the fall, correct?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I predicted 4.5 years ago, Brian, that Mitt would win the nomination of the Republican Party, and I've often said that he's much more conservative than people realize for a variety of reasons, none of the least of which is the fact that he's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He had to be somewhat moderate at certain times to win the governorship of the most liberal state in the Union, arguably, Massachusetts. But, yes, I am strongly for the Romney, especially, if he didn't pick Ron Paul or Rand Paul, the third closest he could get to where you and I stand as kind of libertarians and fiscal conservatives is the guy from Wisconsin. So I'm really excited about the Mitt Romney Paul Ryan ticket.
Well, I want to talk about this first. I'm going to set this up. I'm going to play a little clip here. I've heard it a few times, and it's just stunning to listen to. This is going to be at the Democratic National Convention, the DNC convention, where there's a voice vote, and this is regarding the Democrats changing their platform by voice vote regarding references to God and supporting Jerusalem as Israel's capital. I'm going to play this for our listeners real quick, because if you haven't heard it, it's pretty fantastic. You can see on some of the photos that have been circulated around, on the teleprompter, it's already informing him what they want the voice vote to be. And it reminds me of how Ron Paul was really shafted, in my opinion, by the RNC down in Tampa. I think, as most people do, if you just look at the mathematics, Ron Paul did win a plurality of 5 states, and according to the RNC rules that they made for themselves, if you win 5 states, you get a speaking role. They wanted to vet his speech. They wanted to make sure that they got him to say a certain thing, and he said, no, I've earned the right to speak. I'm going to say the things I want to think. And so then they tried changing the rules on him. So this whole party platform, I don't know, some call it a charade or some call it just a theater. Whatever the case is, both sides have been doing some stuff with their voting and their rules that have a lot of people up in arms. So I want to play this clip, and then I want to get your reaction to it. This is Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa from the city of Los Angeles, my backyard, at the DNC. Here it goes.
As an ordained United Methodist minister, I am here to attest and affirm that our faith and belief in God is central to the American story and informs the values we've expressed in our party's platform. In addition, President Obama recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and our party's platform should as well. Mr. Chairman, I have submitted my amendment in writing, and I believe it is being projected on the screen for the delegates to see.
Let me stop it right there. I just want to set it up that the Democrats had made these changes that this gentleman is a little uncomfortable with, unhappy with, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, good Lord Almighty, but I mean, just trying to say, oh, it was an oversight, oh, it was a mistake. No, they took it out and they changed the other language. They intentionally did this. They learned that the outcry was going to be pretty negative, so then they tried to cover their tracks. This is what follows.
I move adoption of the amendment as submitted and shown to the delegates.
A motion has been made. Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the matter requires a 2/3 vote in the affirmative. All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the... Let me do that again.
Uh-oh.
All of those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no.
Uh-oh.
I guess...
Uh-oh.
You've got to vote, and then you've got to let them do what they're going to do.
I'll do that one more time. All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 have voted in the affirmative. The motion is adopted, and the platform has been amended as shown on the screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So there it is, Bruce, the title of this. says Dems deny Christ 3 times. That's some certain implications there. React to that, please.
These groups of people at the DNC, Brian, would mess up a one-car funeral. I mean, they cannot run a hot dog stand. And I have 2 quick observations. Number one is that this was a major mess up for the Democrats and made them look very bad. And number 2, the media keeps telling us that 3 things are totally obsolete. Number 1, voting itself, our vote doesn't really matter, and Florida proved that wrong in 2000. Number 2, the Electoral College is outdated and unconstitutional. And number 3 is the fact that these conventions are dinosaurs. Well, you know what? We saw that they're not all that scripted, and we saw there is some controversy. So, but I think it's a sham. I think it's a joke, and it's going to come back to haunt the Democrats.
Yeah, it's very it's very interesting that now just the optics of it that God is being denied and Jerusalem is being thrown under the bus. I don't know why they decided to pick this fight right now, unless, you know, it's like you were saying, does this make them look bad, or, as some people are saying, is this actually revealing about who the Democrats really are?
Excellent question, Brian. I think you hit the nail right on the head and pretty much answered your own question. It's revealing who they really are. Let me take you back a little ways. In 1900, the Democrats ran a fundamental Christian preacher and orator as their candidate, William Jennings Bryan, who is called the Golden Tongue or the Golden Orator. He was a masterpiece of a preacher, an eloquent spokesperson and lecturer. He was made famous at the end of the Scopes trial. He died of a heart attack. He battled the attorney, from Chicago there in the famous monkey trial in Tennessee and Dayton, Tennessee. And but the point is this: we're talking about the party that started out as the Christian Democrats, if you will, William Jennings Bryan. We've only had 4 Baptist presidents. Other than Harding, the other 3 have been Democrats. Harry S. Truman, a staunch Baptist. Jimmy Carter, a Baptist Sunday school teacher. And Bill Clinton was pretty much of an active Southern Baptist. But now the Democratic Party has declined to an anti-God, anti-church, anti-religion platform and party. And, I mean, there's no doubt about it, Brian, that those people outnumbered the ones that said yay.
Bruce,
I mean, they clearly won the vote. The negatives won the vote. So you have people booing God.
Well, I'll tell you what, they at least tied. There is no way that anybody could listen to the sound of that, to listen to the audio, and not at least say, this is 50-50. We need to go to the vote. We need to press the button. We need a raise of hands. We need to count, because there is no way that's 2/3 yes, 1/3 quietly saying no. That was at least 50-50, and it shows people screaming in the stands, no.
It's unbelievable that you have people doing the thumbs down on God. I mean, how can you vote against Jesus? Of course, I've said for the last 10 years, Brian, that if Jesus Christ were to come back to earth and happen to run as a Republican, and Adolf Hitler were to come back in reincarnation and run as a Democrat, 90% of these people would vote for Adolf Hitler over Jesus Christ, because they don't vote principle. There was a day when Democrats voted for the person and their platform and their principles, first. Dems voted overwhelmingly for Eisenhower, put him in with 2 landslides. They voted overwhelmingly for Ronald Reagan, the Reagan Democrats. They used to vote for the person, but now it is strictly partisanship, and this is a party that hates God, hates religion, and hates church. And quite frankly, I think it's going to come back and really nip them in the heels in November.
Well, this is also an administration that rammed through a health care bill that is trying to force the Catholic Church into funding Planned Parenthood, into, in my opinions of Planned Parenthood are, it's a libertarian issue for me. You make your choice, I'll make my choice. I think some of the preventative things, whether it's condoms, whether it's contraception, I could care less. Number one, I don't think people should be forced to pay for it, and people shouldn't be forced to pay for abortion. But I think if it's a libertarian society, you make your own personal call, let the other person make their own personal call, but you shouldn't confiscate funds to force people to do something they disagree with. And this war on religion, this war on God that you've been hearing about, it's completely ignoring the tenets of Catholicism. I'm not Catholic, but they don't support these things, and now through Obamacare they're being forced to support these things with their tax dollars, and people are saying, wait a minute, I got a fundamental right to not support these things. And yeah, so you're hearing a lot of people that are saying that they are taking a stance that is anti-church, that is anti-religion, that is anti-spiritual, because they know better. What do you think about that?
No, I agree 100%. When one of your keynote speakers is Miss Flux, who is angry at Republicans because a Catholic university, a seminary, will not provide her diaphragms and birth control pills paid for by you and me, Brian, that has to strike against every libertarian bone in your body.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have no problem with contraception, and I don't think that it should be required that people that disagree with it should have to fund it. Leave it out there. You make your choice. We'll make our choice. But I don't see where it's a fundamental right where you're supposed to have contraception provided for you. Go to the store, pay $9 for your prescription, and get it done. I don't see why the use of governmental force to make these things happen. I don't see how that makes good logistical sense if you're trying to govern a nation that's as diverse as America.
It's crazy. It makes no sense. And again, you have a party that is not only anti-church, anti-Christian, anti-God. They are so antagonistic against the Catholic Church. I don't know how any Catholic in their right mind could vote for this ticket. Even the abortion issue alone. I mean, this is radical third-term abortion. This is worse than abortion on demand. This is infanticide that the platform calls for. But to force a Catholic seminary or law school to provide contraceptives when that religion is against that, and then Valerie wants to turn around, Valerie Flux, whatever her name is, wants us to turn around, and you and I as taxpayers pay for her illicit sex. Listen, Rush Limbaugh was right. She is a harlot. She is a whore. Let's just get it out in the open. They attacked Rush. They should attack her.
Sandra Fluck is the name. I think you're confusing.
Sandra Fluck.
Valerie Jarrett.
Sandra, whatever
Valerie
her name
Jarrett is the mouthpiece of Mr. Obama. He's been with him since the Chicago days. But yeah,
why don't they drop Biden from the ticket and run Sandra Flux?
Yeah, it's an interesting component there when you're trying to sort this all out, because Rush's point was if you receive financial compensation for sexual activity, there's a definition for that. No one's saying you can't do these things. No one's saying you. Well, I mean, you as a minister would say you shouldn't do these things, and you could cite scripture and some thing. But when you have it where she's demanding that other people handle that for her, I just think that's really rude and inconsiderate of her to say, you know what, you need to take care of this thing for me. I disagree. As a libertarian, I say you need to take care of that on your own.
Well, absolutely, you're right. It is very rude and selfish of her. And first of all, she should live by the moral precepts of the Bible. But if she's not going to, I think it's wrong of her to force both the government and the Catholic Church to provide her with her little party favors. I'm sorry. I pray for her soul. I hope she gets saved and born again. She needs Jesus in her life. If this is the best the modern Democratic Party has to offer, Sandra Flux, Valerie Flux, whatever her name is, they're in bigger trouble than you and I think.
Well, when it comes down to religion, I think it's equally important that Christians don't impose their beliefs onto the rest of the public either. I think in a libertarian society, you would have the right to live your life how you choose and make your personal decisions and quote your scripture and talk to people about it. But when it comes down to the personal choice, it's a personal choice. You make your own choice about your own health care. But I was struck, Bruce. I was really floored. I sent out a tweet about, I forget the woman's name, but she was out there talking about women's reproductive health and that government should stay out of health care and women's rights to make their personal decisions. And I said, did you read any of the 2,700 pages of Obamacare? Talk about government intruding into your personal decisions with you and your doctor. Are you kidding me? So, I mean, the hypocrisy on, you need to stay out of my personal health and let me make that call. Then why are these same people supporting Obamacare? I don't understand that.
Great question, Brian. And here's another point that I've been trying to make for years. They say pro-choice, pro-choice, pro-choice. Government shouldn't tell the woman how to handle her body or how she should decide to live her life with her body. Choice, choice, choice. But the only issue the modern liberals and the modern Democratic Party wants choice on is abortion. They don't want choice when it comes to school vouchers. They don't want choice when it comes to vouchers for other things. They don't want choice when it comes to guns and gun ownership. They don't want choice when it comes to tax cuts. They don't want choice. And like you said, how about Obamacare itself? That eliminates 90% of our choices. The only thing they want choice on is their single acid test issue, their single litmus test, and that is abortion on demand. And it is hypocritical, and it's time people wake up and call them out on it.
I think it's a fair point to make, because you and I have talked about it before. You are pro-life, and I am a little bit more libertarian on that, saying, that's
sure.
a battle.
And I respect you for that.
I'm just not going to pick that fight right now. I think everybody has their own decisions to make in life until you're in a situation, whatever. Just as that stands, just make your personal choice on that, and you can still remain pro-choice or pro-life if you wish. I think $16 trillion in debt and all these foreign wars and the crumbling infrastructure, and I think there are some other things I would rather focus my attention on, and I wish our leaders would as well. But you can't have it both ways.
Brian, if I can interrupt you for just a second,
yeah,
please.
Please.
You're right on that matter there. The timeliness, the debate right now, to quote James Carville, Clinton's campaign manager, it's the economy, stupid. We need to focus on the fact that, as Clint Eastwood said, there are 23 million Americans unemployed or underemployed. We should focus on the fact that we're over $17 trillion in debt. We should focus on the fact that this president has not submitted a balanced budget or even passed a budget in 4 years. We should focus on the fact that people are out of work, people are losing their homes. We should focus on the fact that unemployment is still 8.1%. When he promised, he basically said he wouldn't run again or shouldn't deserve a second term if Mr. Obama, if the employment's above 8%. Well, it is. It came down to 8.1% today, but that's because a lot of people have quit filing. And I think we just need to stick with economic issues and let the chips fall where they may.
Because then, if you should choose to be ultra-conservative with your social decisions and your personal decisions, Bruce, I'm okay with that. And if other people want to make their personal decisions that are the opposite of those things, well, I might not make some of those choices, and on some of the others, maybe I could see a little differently. But if it's libertarian, it handles both of those issues. But if it's the Democrats forcing conservative people to do things they're uncomfortable with, well, I think people are starting to stand up and say, I'm not tolerating this. You're not allowed to do that. That's not what a representative government is supposed to do, is ram through your agenda, whether it's ramming through the belief in Christianity and Jesus Christ or ramming through the belief that abortions should be, paid for and subsidized by the taxpayers, even if they're morally opposed to it. I want more libertarianism in our government as opposed to trying to micromanage everything cradle to grave in this nanny state nightmare that George Orwell warned us about.
No, you're exactly right. And I've said for years, I used to stand up before my congregation at Resurrection Independent Baptist Church in Circleville, Ohio, where I pastored for almost 10 years. I used to tell them often that I have somewhat of a libertarian streak down me at times and through me at times, because even though I'm totally opposed to cigarettes, and they are cancer sticks, and they will kill your health and destroy your body and lungs, and they're a waste of money, I think if Brian Engelman wants the right or wants to smoke, you should have the right to do that. Jesse Ventura told me one time, we were on the grassy knoll together for a better part of the day. He said, Bruce, Republicans need to stay out of the bedroom, and Democrats, because they know nothing about business, especially this guy, need to stay out of the boardroom.
It's one of my favorite quotes. It's one of my favorite quotes, and just that you can lead in saying, yeah, one day I'm hanging out on the grassy knoll with Jesse Ventura. That's an awesome lead-in, by the way. Use that every day.
I like that segue. That's 30 years in broadcasting.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do a segue right here. Let me play our station identification here on the TNAM radio network. Remind people, if you're not following us on Twitter, follow us. We're at American_media_. And if you're listening to this after the fact on YouTube, please click subscribe to youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. We're going to come back. I want to definitely pick apart Jerusalem. You have studied Jerusalem for the better part of your life as a pastor. And there's a second component to this. It's not just taking out the DNC, taking out references to God. They're also taking out references to supporting Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And there's a lot of debate over this and how Jerusalem was started in the first place and going 2,000 years ago, and then the ancient alien route going back even further than that. There's a lot of stuff wrapped up in what Jerusalem is, what the Muslim versus Jew versus Christian conflict is all about, and I think you might be one of the best people to explore that with. So we'll be back on the other side in just a second. My name's Brian Engelman. Thank you for listening to Agree to Disagree. You are watching The New American Media.